From the Daily Caller, a third of Democrats believe it's racist to criticize politicians of color. It's actually racist to believe that. What's the famous saying? That I have a dream that one day my children will be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin, something like that. And that's what I grew up on. And that means a lot to me, especially with my family history. But of course today, heaven forbid anyone ever criticize anybody who's not white, because that clearly must be racist. Right now we have the controversy over Trump and the squad. A poll is done. A new poll that suggests nearly 1/3 of Democrats. That's a lot of people to believe in nonsense or to be overtly racist. So let's read this, but I also have another story that I may pull up, and we'll get to it in a second. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical address, but of course, as most of you know, share the video if you like it. YouTube has deranked independent political commentary, so I mean it. If you really do like it, hit that, share on Facebook, wherever you want to share it. But let's read the news. They say, Rasmussen conducted the survey with 1,000 registered voters between July 15th and 16th. The survey found that 32% of Democrats agree that it is racist for any white politician to criticize the political views of politicians of color. The poll also found that 85% of Democrats believe President Donald Trump is racist, while 85% of Republicans believe charges of racism against opponents are usually politically motivated. Go figure. Once again, the whole political debate falls down on tribal lines. And this is why, well, for one, I've said there's no center. But it's also why it's a really difficult position to even address. How do I accurately approach a political situation in which there is no middle ground? Either it is or it isn't. And because I often take the middle, as Vox has even stated in one instance, that the center and the right are aligned in their narrative for the most part, if I say something like this, the left thinks Trump is racist, the right thinks he doesn't. They will accuse me of making a right-wing statement for saying that because I didn't agree with them. And because of that rhetoric and that narrative, you're pushing the center towards Trump. But that's the story we'll get to in a second. Let's read on. They say the Rasmussen poll comes just days after President Trump tweeted that a progressive group of freshman congresswomen should go back where they came from. Really, Daily Caller, I think you can do a better job of framing that. He did say freshman congresswomen should go back and solve the problems, the countries are facing problems, they should fix it. It's a really complicated story, and simply by bringing up the nuance, here it comes, Tim Pool's right wing. I can hear it in the distance from the left. At a Wednesday night rally, supporters of the president took that sentiment a bit further and chanted "Send her back" in reference to Somali refugee Ilhan Omar. Trump told reporters the next day in the Oval Office that he was not happy about the chant and said he went out of his way to move from it during his speech. And you know what I saw in response to that? A lot of Trump supporters saying, "Thank you, Trump." There were actually a lot of conservatives who were critical of Trump over that chant. Admittedly, Trump isn't the one who said it. Now, the next day, what did the narrative become? Trump waited 13 seconds before he started talking. That means he allowed it. Oh, man, come on. When I saw that, I cringed. And what I saw when I looked at Trump was Trump probably thinking like, uh-oh, that one's bad. That one's bad for me. Trump definitely put out these tweets, he put out this language because he wants the Democrats to unify, but things went a little far with that chant. I find that chant to be bad, disgusting. I do not like it. But I also recognize that the left has been using the exact same language nonstop for years and no one said anything about it. And therein lies the problem of there being no middle. I've criticized the left over this stuff. I'll criticize the right over it, but it doesn't matter. I'll at least say this. Even though I made a video, 2 videos where I called the president. I made one video saying Trump disavows send her back comments, and I opened it by saying I find this comments disgusting, completely disagree. What do I get? All of woke Twitter, okay, not all of it, but many woke Twitter people being like, acting like I never criticized the president. And then someone comments that like the only reason I criticize AOC is because I'm panicking because I offended the Trump supporters. Oh, I don't care. These people are insane. I restrain myself from ragging on Trump because I rag on him so often. Yes, I'm in the center. I'm not a fan of Trump's tweets. I understand the strategy, and I'm not stupid. I'm not going to pretend like he didn't succeed in what his plan was. But I think he deserves criticism for his plan, and I think he's facing a Pyrrhic victory over it. But how absurd is it that you can't even criticize the squad without being called racist, as Nancy Pelosi learned the hard way? It's pure insanity. Because what is the outcome then? AOC comes out with her farting cows proposition, and then when someone criticizes it, they're called racist. That's where we're at. It's a fascistic ideology. There is no truth but power. They're using victimhood as a tool. They're using the goodwill and the fear of people. And I'll mention a little bit too from the video I did on my main channel, the story of Amy Wax, who said, she said something to the effect of, immigration from first world countries is preferable because they hold similar values, but most of those countries are white. Therefore, you have to, battle the idea that immigration from third world countries is typically going to result in people who don't necessarily agree with your values, et cetera, et cetera. And because of this, she said, you will then find, I don't want to quote her, she made a reference to countries with white people, and then, countries with non-white people. And no matter how I address that issue, someone's going to try and clip it, so I'm not going to say it. But her point was that any good society will open the doors, at least this is my understanding, because I've seen a bunch of people defending her, will open the doors to all people of all races. But it is an obstacle to try and make sure we are screening for the right the right cultural appreciation. So I did an interview with some refugees from Syria who love South Park and Family Guy and totally love American culture, and that's kind of the point she's making. That those are the people that, you want to try and bring in as an obstacle to try and find them. Of course, now she's smeared as a racist for stating a fact. The point I'm trying to make with that is, if you can't even criticize AOC for being, an idiot because it's racist, well then how do you address her bad ideas? Do you just let her bad ideas happen? That's absurd. And it's going to lead to ruin if we can't be smart. There are a lot of young people who have said this about Trump, that the reason they liked him is because if you can't address a problem, you can't solve it, and that's what we're increasingly seeing on the left. But don't get me wrong, we absolutely do have some criticism to go around, and this is one of the most important points and warnings I will make to Trump and his voters. You don't want a Pyrrhic victory, all right? If you're not familiar, it basically means you win the battle, but you've caused so much damage to yourself, it's hurting you in the long run. The Examiner reports from Scaramucci, if Trump continues racist theme, he'll lose my vote and the votes of a larger glacier of people. I completely agree. First of all, Trump doesn't have my vote, so take my opinion with a grain of salt if you care at all. But there are a lot of moderates. There are a lot of people I talk to who voted for Trump who used to be Democrats. Look at the Walk Away campaign. While I certainly think anybody willing to announce walk away is not going to be swayed by this, I do warn you that there are people in the middle of the road who are sitting there saying like, man, the Democrats are going nuts, but at least, they're looking at the Democrats as really bad and Trump as bad, but not as bad. And that's what Trump needs. Here's the problem. Trump can tip the scales in a dangerous way. It seems like with that the tweet strategy he did, he distracted from the immigration debate. Good for him. It worked for him. Fine. Like, I disagree with him tweeting, but it worked. You got to admit it. But it's also causing damage to him in the hopes it causes more damage to the Democrats. If we go based on the narrative that, like my opinion, as well as like Ezra Klein and other leftists, that Trump was trying to force the Democrats to unify, it seems like he's playing a game where, I don't know if you're familiar with like Pokemon, you do an attack that causes 20 damage to the opponent and 10 damage to yourself, hoping that it kills them, okay, I'm going to try and tone down the rhetoric, even though I'm being metaphorical. It hurts them more than it hurts you. The problem is we can't quantify that. And you got to be really careful because when you get Republicans coming out too, you can lose the moderates. The left doesn't seem to care, right? The left goes full racist all day and night. Not everybody, but a lot of them do. And every time I say you're going to lose the moderates, they laugh, ho, 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 you're not a moderate and we don't want you anyway. Fine. So then at least the Republicans get it. There is a tacit alliance right now between the center and the right over liberty, freedom, loving America, border security, etc. But if Trump pushes that line, he's going to lose those moderates. And that's a warning that I've given over and over again to the left, and the right better listen to it as well. Look, we're going to see record voter turnout in 2020. And while I certainly think Trump has a massive advantage, it seems like his strategy is I'm going to hurt them more than I hurt myself. And while that may work, because you will see people going like, oh my God, Trump, what are you doing? Hey man, but the Democrats are insane, right? That might work. You may find people I know and I've talked to have said, you know what, I'm out. I don't want any of them. And I mean that. I know some people who have refused to vote Democrat. And so I asked them, will you go for Trump? And they were like, no way. I'm just not going to vote. They're going to sit it out. So, hey, man, I will say this. That's the other thing. If Trump causes massive damage to the Democrats, that's still good for Trump no matter what, even if they don't vote for him. These are people who might not have voted for him in the first place, because like I wouldn't, right? So Trump doesn't care if he loses me. Exactly. I think his strategy is going to work. But I will say, Scaramucci has this warning, you can lose votes in the process that you may need. So beware a Pyrrhic victory. You want to go after the Democrats and highlight how absurd it is that you can't criticize these women, sure, but at what cost? I'll leave it there. Stick around. I got one more story coming up for you in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.